Payday doesn't make you rich, it makes you feel rich, and that feeling costs you everything. Picture Friday afternoon, your phone buzzes, the deposit notification hits your screen and something shifts in your chest. Not stress, not relief, something closer to power. You feel capable. You feel like problems are about to get solved. You feel like this time is going to be different. You drive home a little different. You order dinner without checking the price. You scroll your phone with looser fingers, clicking things you'd normally hesitate on. You say yes to the group chat. You say yes to yourself. You deserve it. You worked hard. The money is there. 48 hours later, the account looks completely different. Not empty, not ruined, but that full electric feeling, gone, and in its place, the quiet arithmetic of damage. The subscriptions you forgot were due, the food orders that added up, the random purchase you justified in the moment and now regret in the daylight. You're technically fine, but the month just became a math problem again. This isn't a spending problem. This is neuroscience. When money hits your account, your brain doesn't register a number. It registers a signal, a wave of dopamine, the same chemical that fires when you win something, taste something good, or hear your name called in a crowd. And dopamine doesn't tell you to be careful. It tells you to act. It tells you the moment is now. Scientists call this reward anticipation. Your brain starts producing dopamine before the reward even arrives, which means by the time your paycheck lands, your brain has already been spending it in your imagination for days. The real deposit is almost an afterthought. The chemical reaction already happened. So the moment that money becomes real, you're operating with an impaired sense of value. Not drunk, not irrational, just altered. The price of things feels smaller. The future feels further away. The version of you who will regret this on Tuesday doesn't feel like your problem. He's a stranger, and you're busy feeling good right now. Think about Marcus, 29 years old, works in logistics, makes decent money, not incredible, but enough. Every month, the first 2 days after payday feel like a version of his life he could keep forever. He pays the rent, the essentials, and then the rest feels like breathing room. He buys the thing he had open in his browser for 2 weeks. He upgrades his weekend. He says yes to the dinner because he can this week. He tells himself he'll budget next month when things slow down. But things don't slow down, and next month comes with its own payday, and its own 48-hour window, and its own version of Marcus telling himself the same thing. He's not irresponsible. He's not lazy. He's caught inside a cycle so predictable that behavioral economists can draw it on a graph. And the graph looks like a heartbeat, high on payday, low 3 days later, spiking again at the next deposit, over and over for years. Here's the part that's hard to sit with. Most people assume the problem is discipline, that if they just tried harder, they'd stop bleeding money after payday. But discipline is a conscious tool, and what's happening in the brain during those 48 hours isn't fully conscious. It's running underneath your awareness in the same circuitry that drives hunger and impulse and attraction. You can't willpower your way past a biological response, at least not by fighting it directly. There's a term in behavioral economics called the present bias. It describes your brain's tendency to assign dramatically more value to right now than to any point in the future, even the near future. The version of you who needs that money in 3 weeks feels abstract. The version of you who wants something today feels urgent and real. Researchers at Princeton put people in brain scanners and showed them reward scenarios. When the reward was immediate, the emotional center of the brain lit up like a city at night. When the reward was delayed, even by a few weeks, that part went quiet. A different, cooler, more calculating part took over. 2 different brains, same person, different timestamps. After payday, you're living in the city at night brain. Everything feels possible. Consequences feel manageable. 3 weeks from now is basically fiction. And the system knows this. Not in a conspiratorial way, just in a deeply studied, ruthlessly applied way. Retail apps send push notifications on Fridays. Restaurants run payday weekend specials. Credit card companies design their interfaces to show available balance first, not current debt. E-commerce checkout flows strip out friction deliberately. 1 click, no pause, no reflection. The entire consumer infrastructure is built around the exact window when your judgment is at its most optimistic. You're not shopping. You're being hunted at a very specific moment in your monthly cycle. And once you see that, the phone notification on payday doesn't feel like opportunity anymore. It feels like a bell ringing. But here's where it gets more complicated than just be careful with your money. The 48-hour illusion doesn't just drive spending, it kills investing. When you feel wealthy, even temporarily, your brain recalibrates your baseline. You start making plans that assume a version of your finances that no longer matches reality by mid-month. You think about the vacation. You think about the upgrade. The idea of moving money away from your account into a retirement fund, a brokerage, an emergency reserve feels like shrinking yourself. Why would you put money away when you finally have some? It's the same psychology that makes lottery winners broke within 5 years, not because they spent wildly on mansions and cars, though some do, but because temporary wealth rewrites your sense of normal, and once the feeling of normal rises, everything below it feels like loss. You got one good deposit, and your brain quietly renegotiated the floor. Diana is 34. She started a Roth IRA 2 years ago. For the first few months, she automated a contribution right after payday, small, consistent. Then 1 month, a car expense hit, and she paused it. She told herself she'd restart next month. Next month came. Payday felt good. She bought some things she'd been putting off. The contribution never got re-enabled. She didn't forget, she deprioritized. The IRA felt abstract. The purchase felt real. 3 months of missed contributions, then 6, then a year. Now she tells herself she'll get serious when she earns more, but earning more won't fix the 48-hour window. It just makes the spending feel more justified. So what actually breaks the cycle? Not motivation, not guilt, not another YouTube video about discipline. What breaks it is timing. The people who consistently build wealth, not the ultra-rich, just the ones who quietly accumulate real security over time, they don't rely on their payday brain to make good decisions. They make the decision before the dopamine spike arrives. Automated transfers that move money out of your checking account the day the paycheck lands, not the day after you've had a chance to feel wealthy, not at the end of the month when you'll assess what's left over, the same hour, the same day, before the 48-hour window opens. The money that leaves your account before you emotionally register it as yours doesn't trigger the dopamine signal. There's no wealth feeling to distort. Your brain never builds the illusion of extra capacity because the account it sees is already the real account. You're not white-knuckling discipline. You're architecting your environment so that discipline never even needs to show up. There's a moment most people have somewhere in their late 20s or 30s. You look at your bank history across a year and realize you made good money. You should have more than this. The math doesn't explain the emptiness of the account. That moment is the 48-hour illusion finishing its work, not in one dramatic swing, but in 48-hour windows stacked across years. Small enough each time to feel forgivable, large enough together to feel devastating. The shift happens when you stop treating payday as a reward. Because it isn't really. A paycheck isn't wealth. It's labor converted to liquidity. It's time already spent, waiting to be redirected. It has zero interest in where it goes. It'll leave your account just as willingly in 10 minutes as it will in 10 days. The feeling of payday is the illusion. The money is neutral. What isn't neutral is what your brain does in the first 48 hours after that notification arrives. That window is where futures get decided, quietly, one small choice at a time. Think about water filling a cracked container. You keep pouring, the level rises, you feel the progress, and then you step away and come back to find it almost exactly where it was before. The crack isn't dramatic, you can barely see it, but it doesn't need to be dramatic, it just needs to always be there. The 48-hour window is the crack. And most people spend their entire working lives refilling the same container without ever looking for it. Once you understand what's actually happening in your brain, the dopamine spike, the present bias, the temporary recalibration of normal, you can't really go back to treating payday like a reward. The notification hits, you feel it, but now there's a half second of recognition underneath the feeling. Ah, there it is, the window. And that pause, that tiny moment of awareness between the feeling and the choice, is worth more than any budget spreadsheet you've ever made. Awareness doesn't guarantee discipline, but it completely changes the relationship. Because now you're not fighting an impulse you don't understand. You're watching a pattern you've already named, and named things have less power than unnamed ones. The question isn't whether the 48-hour window will open next payday. It will for everyone. That's not a character flaw, it's just how you're wired. The question is whether you've decided, in advance, in the calm before the feeling arrives, what happens to that money before the window does. Most people never ask that question. And so the pattern keeps repeating. The deposit lands, the feeling rises, the account empties, and somewhere between the excitement and the regret, every single month, a small piece of the future quietly disappears.